I thought it was a mistake, until she replied. The photo was never meant to leave Ava Clarke's phone. It wasn't scandalous, not really, but it was private in the way that mattered. A mirror selfie taken in the soft light of her bedroom, hair still damp from the shower, oversized shirt slipping off one shoulder. The kind of image you send only to someone who already knows your scars, your laughs, your silences. The kind of image you send to your ex. Ava didn't notice the wrong number until after the message sent. Her stomach dropped as soon as she saw the unfamiliar contact name at the top of the screen. Unknown contact. Her fingers went cold. "Oh no," she whispered, sitting bolt upright on her bed. "No, no, no." She scrambled to unsend it. Too late. Read. Ava stared at the screen like it might explode. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure her neighbors could hear it. She imagined the recipient, a confused stranger, a man probably, maybe laughing, maybe offended, maybe screenshotting. She typed fast. "I'm so sorry. That wasn't meant for you. Please delete it." 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared again. Her phone buzzed. Unknown contact. "I wasn't offended." Ava swallowed. That wasn't the response she expected. Another message followed almost immediately. "For clarity, you sent this to the wrong number. But I assure you, I won't share it." She exhaled shakily, half relieved, half mortified. "Thank you. I'm really embarrassed." There was a pause this time. Longer. Deliberate. Then. Embarrassment usually comes from vulnerability. "I respect that." Ava frowned. "Who talked like that?" Before she could overthink it, she replied. "Still. I'm sorry." The typing dots returned. "Apology accepted. Though I should probably tell you who you accidentally sent it to." Her pulse skipped. "You sent it to Rowan Blackwood." The name meant nothing to her, until she did what anyone would do and typed it into a search bar. Her breath caught. Headlines filled the screen. Rowan Blackwood, tech billionaire. Private. Reclusive. Powerful. Net worth estimated at £8.6 billion. Ava felt dizzy. She had accidentally sent a vulnerable, intimate photo to one of the most powerful women in Europe. Her phone buzzed again. "And before you panic," Rowan added, "I'm also a woman. And very aware you didn't mean to send it." Ava's heart stuttered. She stared at the screen, unsure whether to laugh, cry, or throw her phone across the room. "I'll delete it," Rowan continued. "Unless you ask me not to." Ava hesitated. Something about the calm confidence in those words felt grounding. "You can delete it," Ava replied. "I trust you." There was a pause. Then. "Thank you, Ava Clarke." Her breath caught again. "How do you know my name?" The reply came slower this time. "Because you're not as invisible as you think." Ava didn't sleep that night. Not because she was afraid. But because, for the first time in a long time, she felt seen, by someone who was never supposed to know she existed at all. And somewhere across the city, Rowan Blackwood stared at her phone long after the screen dimmed, wondering how a single mistaken message had managed to feel like fate. Rowan Blackwood did not answer unknown messages. That rule had been in place for over a decade, long before the money multiplied, before magazines printed her face without permission, before strangers spoke her name like it belonged to them. Her assistant handled everything. Her legal team filtered the rest. Rowan lived behind layers of intentional distance, not because she was cruel or arrogant, but because privacy was the only luxury power couldn't buy back once it was gone. Which was why the photo unsettled her. Not because it was intimate, but because it was human. Rowan sat alone in the quiet penthouse overlooking the Thames, the city glowing beneath her like something alive. She hadn't moved from the leather chair since the message arrived. Her phone lay face down on the desk, as if it might accuse her of something if she looked at it too long. She hadn't deleted the photo. Not yet. It wasn't desire that stopped her. Rowan was careful with that. Desire was easy. Attachment was not. It was the honesty in Ava's eyes that caught her off guard. There was no performance in the image. No invitation. Just a woman being herself in a private moment, unaware she was about to collide with a life that could swallow her whole. Rowan finally picked up the phone again. Ava Clark. She hadn't meant to look her up. But curiosity, once sparked, was difficult to extinguish. A few keystrokes. Public records. Nothing invasive. Rowan had lines she didn't cross. Mid-20s. London. Marketing assistant. Recently single. Nothing remarkable. And yet. Rowan leaned back, exhaling slowly. She recognized the familiar ache in her chest, not longing, but something older. Something lonelier. She typed, then deleted. Typed again. I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable earlier. Across the city, Ava was lying awake on her sofa, phone clutched in both hands like a lifeline. She'd convinced herself the conversation was over, that the billionaire had already deleted the photo and moved on. The vibration startled her. Not uncomfortable, Ava replied. Just surprised. 3 dots appeared. That's fair. A pause. For what it's worth, Rowan added, I won't contact you again if you'd rather forget this happened. Ava stared at the message. She should say yes. She should take the graceful exit and return to her small, manageable life. The one where nothing unexpected ever broke through. Instead, her fingers betrayed her. I don't want to forget. Silence. Long enough for doubt to creep in. Then. Neither do I. Rowan closed her eyes. That was the moment she knew she'd crossed a line, not legally, not ethically, but emotionally. And emotional lines were the most dangerous of all. She stood and walked to the window, watching boats drift along the river like unbothered thoughts. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, tailored black suit, silver-streaked dark hair pulled back, expression controlled to the point of being unreadable. No one ever saw past that. Except, perhaps, a woman who hadn't even meant to find her. Rowan typed again. We should set boundaries. Ava smiled despite herself. Okay. No photos, Rowan continued. No expectations. And no assumptions about where this goes. Ava considered that. And honesty? Rowan's lips curved faintly. Especially honesty. There was something strangely intimate about the simplicity of it, 2 women on opposite ends of a power divide, agreeing to meet in the only place that felt safe. Words. That night, they spoke about trivial things at first. Coffee preferences. Insomnia. The comfort of late-night music. Then deeper ones slipped in quietly. Ava spoke about her ex, how being loved conditionally teaches you to shrink. Rowan spoke about wealth, how being wanted endlessly teaches you to disappear. Neither said I feel the same. They didn't have to. When Ava finally set her phone down, dawn was brushing pale light across her curtains. Across the river, Rowan watched the city wake up and wondered, uncomfortably, thrillingly, what it would mean to let someone ordinary into an extraordinary life. Because for the first time in years, Rowan Blackwood didn't feel untouchable. She felt reachable. Rowan woke to the unfamiliar sound of her phone vibrating. Not the sharp, urgent buzz reserved for crises or markets crashing, but a softer, personal rhythm. One she hadn't heard in years. A message. From Ava. Did you sleep? Rowan stared at the screen longer than necessary. She was used to being the first awake, the first decisive, the first to move. Yet this gentle check-in, felt like a disruption she hadn't prepared for. Eventually, Rowan replied. You? Barely. My brain wouldn't switch off. Rowan understood that intimately. She dressed in silence, the penthouse still dim, London stretched beneath the windows like a held breath. Meetings filled her calendar, as they always did, boards, investors, futures that could be measured in percentages and projections. None of them made her hesitate like a single message from a woman she wasn't supposed to be thinking about at all. During a conference call, Rowan found herself distracted. Not by the numbers, but by memory. The way Ava had typed last night, cautiously at first, then more freely. The way her honesty had slipped through without armor. Rowan muted the call. "We should slow this down," she typed. There it was. The sensible choice. The necessary one. The response took longer this time. "Do you want to?" Rowan closed her eyes. The truth rose, uninvited. "I don't know." On the other end of the city, Ava sat at her tiny kitchen table, coffee growing cold in her hands. She'd expected distance. Withdrawal. The inevitable reminder that this connection existed on borrowed time. Rowan's uncertainty felt strangely intimate. "We don't have to decide anything yet," Ava replied. "We can just talk." Rowan smiled faintly. "That's how things start." "Is that always a bad thing?" Rowan didn't answer right away. Because the danger wasn't attraction, it was possibility. She had spent her life avoiding that. By midday, Rowan had already cancelled one meeting and delegated another. Her assistant noticed but said nothing. Everyone around Rowan had learned not to question the rare moments when she rearranged the world for reasons she didn't explain. She typed again. "If we continue, it has to be careful." "Careful how?" Ava asked. "No imbalance. No pressure. You don't owe me anything, not time, not attention, not curiosity." Ava read that twice. "And you?" Rowan paused. "I don't get to be reckless with other people's lives." Ava's chest tightened, not with fear, but understanding. "I don't feel pressured," she wrote. "I feel chosen." Rowan's breath caught. That word landed deeper than it should have. Chosen. It was everything Rowan had learned to distrust. She stood from her desk and paced, fingers tightening around the phone. "That's exactly what worries me," Rowan admitted. The honesty surprised even herself. There it was, the line. Acknowledged, but not crossed. Named, but not erased. By evening, the conversation shifted again. Lighter. Safer. Music recommendations. A shared love of late-night walks. The mutual confession of hating small talk but craving real conversation. And yet, beneath it all, something pulsed, unspoken, unresolved. Ava sent one last message before bed. "Do you ever meet people you don't plan to keep?" Rowan stared at the ceiling. She thought of people who'd wanted her power. Her name. Her protection. She thought of how few had ever wanted her. "I don't plan to meet anyone at all," Rowan replied. "And yet." Ava waited. "Here you are," Rowan finished. Ava smiled into the dark. "Here I am." The line had blurred. Not because either of them crossed it, but because neither of them stepped back. And somewhere between caution and curiosity, Rowan Blackwood began considering a choice she hadn't made in years. What it would mean to let this become real. They agreed to meet on neutral ground. That was Rowan's idea. Public. Quiet. No spectacle, she'd written. And you can leave whenever you want. Ava had smiled at that. Not because it reassured her, but because it revealed how carefully Rowan thought about power. About choice. "There's a cafe near the river," Ava replied. "No tourists this time of year." Rowan arrived early. Of course she did. She stood near the window, coat perfectly tailored, posture composed, as if she were preparing for a boardroom rather than a moment that had been slowly, insistently rewiring her thoughts for days. The cafe smelled of espresso and rain-soaked wool. Outside, the Thames moved steadily, unconcerned. Rowan told herself this was curiosity, Nothing more. Then the door opened. Ava hesitated just inside, scanning the room, nervous, unmistakably real. She wore a soft jumper, sleeves pushed up, hair loosely tied back like she hadn't tried too hard but still cared. There was no dramatic entrance. No cinematic pause. And yet, something in Rowan stilled. This was her. Not pixels. Not words. Presence. Ava's eyes found Rowan's almost immediately. Recognition sparked, and something else, quieter but deeper. Relief, perhaps. Or courage. Rowan lifted a hand slightly, an uncharacteristically small gesture. Ava crossed the room. Up close, Rowan noticed details she hadn't imagined, a faint crease near Ava's mouth from smiling too often, the way her breath caught before she spoke. "Hi," Ava said. Rowan stood. "Hi." It felt ridiculous, two women reduced to a single syllable, after everything they'd shared. They ordered coffee. Sat across from each other. The table between them felt both intimate and impossibly wide. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ava laughed softly. "You're real." Rowan's lips curved. "So are you." Ava studied her, really studied her, and Rowan resisted the urge to retreat. She was used to being looked at for what she represented. This gaze was different. Curious. Unarmed. "You don't look like your photos," Ava said. "Neither do you," Rowan replied. "That's a good thing." The conversation unfolded slowly, like something fragile being unwrapped. They spoke about ordinary things, work, favorite places in the city, how the river looked different depending on the weather. But beneath every word was awareness. Of hands resting on the table. Of glances held a second too long. Of what it meant to choose to stay. At one point, Ava leaned forward. "Can I ask you something?" Rowan nodded. "Why me?" The question was gentle. Honest. Dangerous. Rowan considered lying. "Instead," she said, "because you weren't trying to take anything from me." Ava absorbed that. "I didn't even know who you were," she said quietly. Rowan smiled. "Exactly." Outside, rain began to fall, soft and steady against the glass. The cafe grew quieter, the world narrowing to the space they shared. When Ava stood to leave, Rowan stood too. "This doesn't have to be the last time," Ava said, carefully. Not asking. Not assuming. Rowan met her gaze. "No," she agreed. "It doesn't." They didn't hug. They didn't touch. And somehow, that restraint felt heavier than contact ever could. As Ava walked away, Rowan remained by the window, watching her disappear into the gray afternoon. For the first time, the future didn't feel like something she controlled. It felt like something she might want to step into. They chose a place that didn't belong to either of them. A cafe near the river, half hidden by plane trees and the slow curve of the Thames. No paparazzi lingered here. No polished marble or glass walls. Just fogged windows, scratched wooden tables, and the low murmur of people who didn't know, or care, who Rowan Blackwood was. Rowan arrived first. She always did. She stood by the window instead of sitting, hands loosely clasped behind her back, watching the water move like it had somewhere important to be. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, composed, distant, immaculate. She looked like someone in control. She didn't feel like one. The door opened. Rowan sensed it before she saw Ava. A shift in the air. A soft disruption, like a breath held too long finally released. Ava stepped inside and paused, scanning the room. She looked exactly like she had imagined, and not at all the same. The warmth was there, the openness, but it carried weight now. Nervousness. Intent. Reality. Their eyes met. Recognition passed between them, sharp and undeniable. Ava's shoulders relaxed a fraction, as if something inside her had decided it was safe to stay. Rowan lifted her hand, an instinctive, almost awkward gesture, and Ava smiled as she walked toward her. Up close, the distance collapsed. "Hi," Ava said, quieter than she'd meant to. "Hi," Rowan replied. They both smiled then, small and restrained, like they were handling something fragile. They ordered coffee. Rowan noted how Ava took hers. No sugar, a splash of milk, filed it away without knowing why. They sat across from each other, the table a careful boundary neither rushed to cross. For a moment, silence stretched. Not uncomfortable. Aware. "You're real," Ava said finally, a soft laugh escaping her. Rowan tilted her head. "You sound surprised." "I don't know what I expected," Ava admitted. "But not this." Rowan studied her face, the way Ava's expressions moved freely, unguarded. No practiced stillness. No mask. "I could say the same," Rowan said. Ava's gaze lingered. "You don't look like your photos." Rowan smiled faintly. "Neither do you." The conversation began cautiously, then found its rhythm. Work, the city, favorite places to disappear when London became too loud. Rowan listened more than she spoke, something she rarely allowed herself to do. Ava noticed. "You really hear people," she said at one point. Rowan blinked. "Most people don't want that." "I do." The words settled between them, heavier than they should have been. Outside, rain began to fall, streaking the windows, turning the river into something softer, blurred at the edges. The cafe emptied slowly, time loosening its grip. Ava shifted in her chair. "Can I ask you something honest?" Rowan nodded. "Why did you keep talking to me?" There it was. Rowan didn't answer right away. She could give the safe response. The polite one. Instead, she chose the truth. "Because you didn't know who I was," she said. "And when you found out, you didn't change." Ava swallowed. "I was terrified." Rowan's lips curved. "So was I." That admission felt like a small fracture in something carefully built. When it was time to leave, they stood together near the door. The space between them felt charged now, alive with all the things they hadn't said. "This doesn't have to be a one-time thing," Ava said gently. "Not a question. An opening." Rowan met her eyes. Really met them. "No," she said. "It doesn't." They didn't touch. Not out of fear, but respect. Ava stepped into the rain and walked away, glancing back once. Rowan stayed where she was, watching until Ava disappeared into the gray blur of the city. For the first time in years, Rowan Blackwood didn't feel like the world was something she stood above. It felt like something she might step into, carefully, deliberately. For her. They didn't text that night. Not because either of them didn't want to, but because something had shifted. Words, suddenly, felt heavier. More capable of consequence. Rowan was the first to break the silence the following morning. "I keep replaying yesterday." Ava smiled when she read it, warmth spreading through her chest. "Me too." There was a pause. "We should talk about what this means," Rowan wrote. Ava hesitated, then answered honestly. "I don't know what it means yet. I just know I don't want it to disappear." Rowan closed her eyes. "That's exactly why we have to be careful," Rowan said. "The world won't be kind to you." Ava looked up. "Are you?" The question struck harder than any headline ever had. Rowan didn't answer right away. "I would be," she said finally. But kindness isn't always enough. The truth hung between them. Later that night, Ava stood at the edge of the platform waiting for the train home, the city echoing around her. Her phone buzzed. "I need to tell you something," Rowan wrote. Ava's pulse quickened. "If this continues," Rowan continued, "there will be rules I don't fully control. Privacy agreements. Security. Distance. Sometimes, secrecy." Ava read it twice. Then. Are you asking me to hide? Rowan's reply came slowly. I'm asking if you could live in the shadow of attention you never asked for. Ava thought of the cafe. The river. The way Rowan looked at her like she mattered, not as a symbol, not as a risk. Rowan exhaled, tension she hadn't realized she was holding easing just slightly. Neither do I. That weekend, they attended the same art exhibition, separately. Ava arrived first. Rowan entered 20 minutes later with her security detail, gaze scanning the room automatically. When her eyes found Ava across the gallery, something unmistakable passed between them. Recognition. Connection. Restraint. They didn't speak. Didn't stand close. But as Rowan moved past, her fingers brushed Ava's wrist, brief, intentional, electric. Ava's breath caught. So did Rowan's. It was nothing. And it was everything. That night, Rowan stood alone in her penthouse, city lights stretching endlessly below. For the first time, she understood the true cost of being seen. And she also understood the risk of choosing not to be. Because somewhere in London, a woman who hadn't meant to find her was quietly becoming impossible to walk away from. The photograph appeared on a Tuesday morning. It wasn't the photo Ava had sent by accident, nothing that personal. Just an image from the art exhibition, Rowan Blackwood mid-step, her expression unreadable, the curve of her profile unmistakable. The headline beneath it read, Rowan Blackwood attends private viewing, alone. Ava stared at it on her phone while standing in line for coffee, the hum of the cafe suddenly too loud. Alone, the article insisted. The word felt deliberate. She knew better. Her phone buzzed before she could overthink it. I saw it too, Rowan wrote. Ava exhaled. Does this happen often? Every time I leave my house. Ava imagined that, being reduced to angles and captions, truth flattened into something manageable for strangers. I don't want to be something that complicates your life, Ava typed carefully. Rowan's reply came almost immediately. You already are. Then, softer. And I don't regret it. They met that evening in Rowan's car, parked along a quiet street far from the river and the familiar cafes. The windows were tinted, the engine off, the city muted around them. This wasn't neutral ground. It was private. Dangerously so. Rowan sat in the back seat, jacket folded neatly beside her. Ava slid in after a brief nod from the driver, heart racing. The door closed with a soft, final sound. For a moment, neither spoke. The space between them felt charged, closer than they'd ever been, yet still restrained. I shouldn't have asked you to meet me like this, Rowan said finally. It blurs lines. Ava looked at her. Really looked at her. Not the billionaire. Not the name. The woman. I wanted to, Ava said. That should count for something. Rowan's jaw tightened. It counts too much. Silence fell again. Heavy. Intent. Outside, footsteps passed, then faded. I don't know how to do this halfway, Ava said quietly. I either step back, or I step forward. Rowan's breath caught. So do I. For the first time, Rowan reached out without stopping herself. Her fingers brushed Ava's hand, light, questioning, offering space to pull away. Ava didn't. The contact was brief. Controlled. And it undid them both. Rowan withdrew first, as if she'd touched fire. She pressed her palm to her own knee, grounding herself. This is the moment, she said, voice low. Where I either protect you, or fail to. Ava's chest tightened. From what? From me. The words hurt more than Ava expected. You're not the danger, Ava said. The world is. Rowan met her gaze, something raw flickering there, fear, desire, restraint locked in tension. And I live in it, Rowan replied. The driver cleared his throat softly, a reminder of reality pressing in. Rowan straightened. The distance returned, deliberate and painful. This can't continue like this, Rowan said. Not in cars. Not in shadows. Ava nodded, even though her heart protested. Then don't let it, she said. Let it be real, or let it go. The car door opened moments later. Ava stepped out into the cool night air, pulse unsteady. Before the door closed, Rowan spoke once more. Give me time, she said. Not because I'm unsure of you, but because I'm afraid of what choosing you would cost. Ava held her gaze. Some things are worth the cost, she said softly. Then she closed the door. As the car pulled away, Rowan sat back, eyes closing, the echo of Ava's words lingering like a promise she wasn't sure she was brave enough to keep. Because for the first time in her life, walking away didn't feel like control. It felt like loss. The invitation arrived on thick cream paper, sealed with understated black wax. Rowan Blackwood held it between her fingers longer than necessary. A charity gala. High profile. Mandatory attendance. Cameras, donors, politicians, investors, an entire ecosystem built on being seen and interpreted. And one line that made her breath slow. +1 optional. Rowan set the invitation down and stared out over the city. London glowed below her, indifferent and relentless. She had declined the idea of a +1 for years. It was easier. Safer. Cleaner. But now. She picked up her phone. I have an event next Thursday, she typed. Very public. Ava replied a few minutes later. I guessed that would happen eventually. Rowan smiled faintly. I'm not asking you to come, she added quickly. I just wanted to be honest. There was a pause. Then. Are you asking me not to? Rowan closed her eyes. I don't know how to protect you if you do. Ava sat on her bed, phone warm in her hands. She thought of the car. The almost touch. The way Rowan looked when she was afraid of wanting something. What if I don't need protecting? Ava wrote. Rowan's reply came slowly. Everyone thinks that. Until they don't have a choice anymore. That night, Ava couldn't sleep. Not from fear, but from clarity. She knew what she wanted. The question was whether Rowan would let herself want it too. The gala filled the museum with light and sound, crystal chandeliers, string quartets, conversations layered with money and intention. Rowan moved through it with practiced ease, dressed in black silk, expression serene. She felt hollow. Every camera flash felt louder than usual. Every smile felt borrowed. Halfway through the evening, her assistant leaned in. You have a guest. Rowan froze. A woman, the assistant added carefully. No press credentials. She asked to speak with you. Rowan's pulse thundered. She turned. And there Ava was. Not dressed to disappear, but not to perform either. Elegant, simple, unmistakably herself. She stood near the edge of the room, hands loosely clasped, eyes steady despite the weight of the space. For a moment, the world narrowed to a single choice. Rowan crossed the room. You came, she said softly. Ava nodded. I didn't want to wonder forever what it would feel like to stand in your world. Rowan glanced instinctively toward the cameras. Then back at Ava. This will change things, she warned. Ava met her gaze without flinching. So will pretending we don't exist. The orchestra swelled. Conversation buzzed around them, oblivious. Rowan made her decision. She turned, not away from Ava, but toward the room. Toward the cameras. And introduced her. This is Ava Clarke, Rowan said calmly, clearly. She's with me. The words landed like a quiet detonation. Cameras pivoted. Whispers rippled. Ava's breath caught, but Rowan's hand closed gently around hers, steady and deliberate. Not hidden. Not rushed. Chosen. For the first time, Rowan Blackwood didn't brace herself for impact. She stood her ground. And in that moment, the world took notice. But Rowan only saw Ava. The headlines came before dawn. Ava saw them first. She woke to her phone vibrating non-stop, notifications stacking faster than she could clear them. At first, she thought something terrible had happened, an emergency, a mistake. Then she saw Rowan's name. Rowan Blackwood steps out with mystery woman. Billionaire's private life no longer private. Who is Ava Clarke? Ava's chest tightened. Her name, printed in bold, felt unreal, too loud for the quiet life she'd lived just days before. She didn't click the articles. She called Rowan instead. Rowan answered on the first ring. "I'm sorry," Rowan said immediately. No preamble. No distance. Just truth. For what? Ava asked, though she already knew. For the speed of it, Rowan replied. For the weight. For not being able to slow the world down. Ava sat on the edge of her bed, grounding herself. Are you regretting it? Rowan exhaled. No. I'm afraid, but I'm not regretful. That mattered. By mid-morning, Ava's workplace was buzzing. Colleagues whispered. Someone asked, half joking, if she'd always been secretly famous. Ava smiled tightly and focused on her screen, pretending the room wasn't closing in. Her phone buzzed again. I can have a car bring you somewhere quiet, Rowan texted. No pressure. Ava stared at the message. I don't want to disappear, she replied. I want to choose where I stand. Rowan's answer came almost instantly. Then stand with me. They met that afternoon in Rowan's penthouse. Not hidden. Not hurried. When Ava stepped inside, the city sprawled beneath the windows, vast, unfiltered, impossible to ignore. Rowan poured tea with steady hands. Security will increase around you, she said. Not to cage you, to give you options. Ava nodded. I don't want to lose myself in this. You won't, Rowan said quietly. I won't let that happen. Ava looked at her then, really looked. The control. The fear. The resolve. This is what choosing looks like for you, Ava said. Yes, Rowan replied. And I don't choose lightly. That evening, Rowan issued a statement. Short. Unembellished. My private life is not a topic for speculation. Ava Clarke is not a mystery, she is a person, and she deserves respect. The response was immediate. Divided. Loud. But something else followed too. Support. Messages from women who saw themselves reflected in the courage of being named. In the quiet defiance of truth spoken without apology. I insist on it, Rowan said firmly. If being with me requires you to erase yourself, then I've already failed you. Something in Ava loosened. Still, doubt lingered. A week later, it arrived in human form. Her ex. Lena stood across the street outside Ava's flat one evening, arms folded, expression unreadable. Ava stopped short when she saw her, 1,000 old instincts flaring at once. Is this your new thing? Lena asked, eyes flicking to the car idling nearby. Billionaires now? Ava felt heat rise, but steadied herself. This isn't about you, she said. Lena laughed softly. Everything about you used to be. Ava met her gaze. Not anymore. That night, Ava told Rowan everything. The old patterns. The shrinking. The fear of becoming someone else's reflection again. Rowan listened without interrupting. When Ava finished, Rowan said quietly, You don't owe anyone proof of your worth. Not me. Not the public. Not your past. Ava exhaled. I just don't want to lose who I am trying to keep what we have. Rowan stepped closer. Not looming. Not retreating. Then don't lose her, Rowan said. Bring her with you. For the first time since the gala, Ava felt steady. She went back to work full-time. Took the bus once, on purpose. Met friends without security hovering at the table. The headlines faded a little. What remained was choice. One evening, as they cooked together, awkward, laughing, real, Ava realized something with quiet certainty. She wasn't disappearing. She was expanding. And Rowan, watching her move freely through the space, understood something just as important. Love didn't mean protecting someone from the world. It meant trusting them to stand in it, unchanged. Together. The call came late at night. Rowan's private line, a number few knew, lit up across her penthouse desk. Her assistant's voice was taut. "There's been a leak," they said. "Ava's address, it's online." Someone tracked her. Rowan's chest tightened. For the first time, she felt the raw edge of fear, sharp, personal, uncontrollable. She had protected herself for decades. She had trained her life to avoid exposure. And now, someone had crossed the line into Ava. "I'll handle it," Rowan said, calm but ice running beneath her words. But the moment the call ended, Rowan realized she couldn't handle this alone, not without involving Ava. She found Ava sitting at her kitchen table, tea untouched, laptop open. Her hair fell loose over her shoulders, eyes tired but alert. "A leak," Rowan said bluntly. Ava froze. Then slowly, deliberately, she set the laptop aside. "I saw it," she said. "I wasn't hiding." Rowan's hand hovered in the air. "You don't understand. It's dangerous. People could show up. Hack into your accounts. Harass you." Ava met her gaze evenly. "I know exactly what's at stake. And I also know this isn't the first time you've had to protect yourself. So don't try to protect me by erasing me from my own life." Rowan's chest constricted. The instinct to shield her was primal, overpowering, but Ava's calm conviction forced Rowan to pause. "You really mean that?" Rowan asked, voice low. "I do," Ava said. "I'll face this with you. But I won't disappear for you. Not for anyone. I'm not invisible." The words hit Rowan harder than any warning or security protocol. She had spent years controlling what people saw, what they believed about her. Now someone she cared for refused to play by those rules. They moved together then, side by side, to reinforce the perimeter, passwords changed, devices secured, trusted contacts alerted. But the tension wasn't in the threat, it was in the choice. Rowan had to accept that Ava would never be hidden, never minimized. And she had to trust that it wouldn't break her. Later, Rowan held Ava's hand in the quiet of the penthouse. "You're fearless," she said softly, almost reverently. "No," Ava replied, leaning slightly into her. "I'm seen. And being seen doesn't scare me anymore. Not with you." Rowan's eyes lingered on her, the enormity of it sinking in. There was no retreat. No control to grasp. Just reality, two women, their lives intertwined, fully visible, fully accountable to the world. "And this," Rowan said quietly, "is what it feels like to let someone in without barriers." Ava smiled. "Then let's do it, fully. No shadows. No hiding." The city lights flickered beneath them, alive and indifferent, while Rowan Blackwood made her first choice in years, to surrender control. Not to the world. Not to fear. But to love. The morning after the leak, the city felt different. Louder. Smaller. Impossible to ignore. Ava woke to notifications piling up like snow, messages from friends, strangers, even colleagues. Some were supportive, some curious, some malicious. But all of them reminded her that the quiet life she had once known was gone. Rowan was already awake, reviewing her security logs in the penthouse study. Her expression was calm, methodical, her usual armor, but Ava could see the tension in the way she tapped her pen, the tight line of her jaw. "You're awake," Rowan said without looking up. "I've been awake," Ava replied. "Thinking." Rowan finally looked at her, eyes steady. About? About us, Ava said. And what it means if everyone sees us. If no one thinks this is private anymore. Rowan set the pen down. It means reality finally caught up to us. She paused. And it doesn't change what I feel. But it changes the world we move in. Ava walked closer. Do we step back? Or step forward? Rowan's hand reached for hers, deliberate, grounding. We step forward. Together. And we let the world notice. We've already started being visible. We can either do it willingly, or let it control us. That day, Rowan escorted Ava to a public function, an art unveiling sponsored by her foundation. Cameras clicked. Journalists whispered. Some tried to pry. Others admired. And Ava stood beside Rowan, perfectly poised, unflinching. For the first time, she realized something profound. She didn't need to shrink. Not for Rowan. Not for anyone. She could exist fully in the spotlight and still be herself. During the event, an old acquaintance approached Ava, curious about her sudden appearance in this world. Rowan Blackwood brought you here? They asked. Wow, you must have changed your life overnight. Ava smiled, calm. Not changed. Expanded. Rowan watched from across the room, heart swelling. This wasn't about control anymore. It was about partnership. Respect. Choice. Later, when the crowd thinned, Rowan and Ava stood at the edge of the gallery, hands brushing together until fingers intertwined. You didn't have to be afraid, Ava said softly. I was, Rowan admitted. Terrified. But not of you. Of letting someone in and losing them. You didn't lose me, Ava said, squeezing her hand. You trusted me. And in that trust, something unspoken shifted, an unbreakable bond forged not in secrecy, but in the courage to be fully seen. The world had noticed them. The world would talk. But Ava and Rowan didn't care. They had chosen each other, openly, deliberately, irrevocably. Outside, London pulsed with its usual rhythm, indifferent and persistent. But inside the gallery, in that quiet space, the collision of their worlds felt like home. For the first time in both of their lives, love wasn't something to hide. It was something to stand in, and stand by. The days after the gala passed in a blur of flashing cameras, whispered speculation, and uninvited attention. The world was fascinated by Rowan Blackwood's choice, but for Ava, it was exhausting. Every email felt like a test, every social media mention a potential trap. Rowan noticed the strain immediately. She had anticipated it, of course, prepared protocols, security measures, schedules, but she hadn't accounted for the small, human exhaustion of being watched. One evening, as rain streaked the penthouse windows, Ava sat curled on the sofa, laptop balanced on her knees. Rowan approached, silently placing a mug of tea beside her. You're carrying it all yourself, Rowan said softly, settling into the chair across from her. I'm not hiding, Ava replied, voice tight. But I didn't sign up for this spotlight. Rowan nodded. And you don't have to. But you chose to walk in it with me. That doesn't make it lighter, but it makes it ours. Ava looked up. Even if it overwhelms me? Even then, Rowan said. I've spent my life controlling everything I could see. With you, I have to let go a little. Trust that we can navigate it together. The phone buzzed, a headline, an interview snippet, someone speculating about their sudden romance. Ava exhaled sharply. Let me handle it, Rowan said, taking her hand. You focus on yourself. On us. For the first time in weeks, Ava allowed herself to lean into that trust. Not blind, not passive, but deliberate. Rowan wasn't just shielding her, she was teaching her how to share the weight of being seen. Later, Rowan led Ava to the balcony. Rain had eased, and the city lights shimmered like 1,000 distant stars. You're still yourself, Rowan said, voice low, almost reverent. Even with all of this around you. Even with me. Ava smiled softly, fingers entwined with hers. I am, because I choose to be. Not because anyone else wants me to be. Rowan's eyes softened. And that choice, that courage, it makes me want to protect you even more. Not from the world, but with you in it. They stood in silence, letting the hum of London pulse beneath them. The storm had passed outside, but inside, there was still tension. The kind that always comes when lives collide, when two worlds merge. But in that quiet moment, Ava realized something crucial: the world could watch. It could judge, speculate, even intrude. But it could never dictate who she was, or who she was with. Rowan leaned her forehead against Ava's. Whatever comes, she whispered. We face it together. And I wouldn't want it any other way, Ava replied. The city stretched endlessly below them, glittering and indifferent. But for the first time, both women felt anchored, not by control, not by fame, not by fear, but by each other. The final challenge came quietly, but it hit hard. A tech leak, a minor scandal, and a misinterpreted quote in a high-profile interview sent the media into a frenzy. Headlines screamed, speculation flourished, and whispers grew into roars. Rowan's world, the one she had built with careful precision, was under scrutiny. And with it, so was Ava. Ava stood in the penthouse kitchen, arms crossed, watching the city lights tremble through the rain-streaked windows. She could feel the tension rolling through Rowan like electricity. They're trying to make this bigger than it is, Rowan said, voice steady but tight. They'll dig. They'll speculate. And they'll try to break us. Ava stepped closer. And if they do? Rowan's gaze softened, but her grip on Ava's hands was firm, grounding. Then we don't give them the satisfaction of control. We face it together. That evening, they held a joint statement, short, clear, undeniable. We are real. We are together. And we are not afraid of being seen. It hit every outlet simultaneously. Critics buzzed. Supporters cheered. Friends worried. Strangers watched. But in that moment, Ava realized something that had been growing since the first accidental photo. The world could see them, could speculate endlessly, but it could not define them. Rowan reached for Ava, their fingers locking with effortless familiarity. Do you know what this feels like? Rowan whispered. Not the chaos. Not the scrutiny. But this, us, here, fully visible. Ava smiled, heart swelling. I do. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not for safety. Not for anonymity. Not for anything at all. They walked together across the penthouse balcony, city lights glittering like stars around them, rain finally easing into soft mist. Rowan pulled Ava close, and for the first time in years, she didn't flinch, didn't calculate, didn't plan. She simply stood there, in the warmth of someone who chose her freely, unafraid, unhidden. And we'll keep choosing each other, Rowan said, voice low but unwavering. Always, Ava replied. They kissed then, not for the cameras, not for the world, not for the headlines. But because it was theirs. Entirely theirs. The city could watch. It could whisper. It could try to define them. But they had already defined themselves, two women, fiercely human, irrevocably in love, and unafraid to be seen. And in the quiet aftermath, Rowan and Ava finally understood the truth of what they'd been building all along. The bravest choice wasn't hiding. It was living, and loving, fully, openly, together. The world could see them. And that was enough.